everybody, welcome back to Gideon Stuff and welcome to another brand review video. This is the third one I've done and you guys voted. So today we're taking a look at Kershaw. Well, technically Kershaw and Civivi were tied in the poll for next brand to review, but I decided to do Kershaw today for a couple of reasons. Civivi / we will be coming next. All right, so Kershaw knives. I've got a couple of my Kershaw knives sitting out here. I was going through my collection last night, trying to pull out all the Kershaws in preparation for today's video. And I don't have as many Kershaws as I was expecting. I probably got a couple here and there that I just didn't pick up. I've handled a lot of Kershaws. I really like Kershaw. Kind of going to get that out of the way first, but I don't really have all that many. So let's go ahead and go through the ones that I do have. I've got a Cryo. This is a classic in their lineup, designed by Rick Hinderer. This particular one has a D2 blade. Big fan of this knife. This was actually given to me by Mike from Misheard, Mike from Misheard Knife Reviews, or Aurora Knife and Tool. Shout out to him. We've got my Kershaw Bare Knuckle. I love this knife, made in the USA. One of the best deals ever. I kick myself that I never bought one of the 20 CV versions. Those were under $100 and I should have got one of those. But I love this knife a lot. Cannot believe that they discontinued it. It's a shock. This is the Kershaw Highball. This is one of my favorite Kershaws ever. I love this knife. This is kind of one of my favorite knives ever, to be honest with you. This was one of the first knives I ever reviewed as well. So it's got a special spot in my heart for that reason. Next, we have the Kershaw Payout. This is a very cool knife. I actually really enjoy this knife a whole lot. In fact, this knife was the knife that I first did an IEDC blank for 2 weeks video on, and it was about assisted knives because this is a spring assisted knife. But it's a really cool knife. I think it looks really awesome. It's kind of big, kind of got a pistol grip, D2 blade on this guy. Yeah, that one's pretty cool. And then my most recent Kershaw, and one that I've been carrying a lot lately and really enjoying, is the Kershaw Mini Iridium. And this is part of the reason why I want to do this video right now, because I doubt I'll get the review for this knife out before the end of the year. So I kind of wanted to make this video as, you know, maybe a little bit of an update, kind of a teaser for what I'm thinking about this knife before the review. I definitely need to get my hands on the full-size one. This one's really cool. D2 aluminum crossbar lock, which I think Kershaw's calling the Dura lock. Can we just call them crossbar locks? Come on, companies. Stop giving us stupid names for this locking mechanism. It's just a crossbar lock, okay? Just call it a crossbar lock. But very cool knife. Again, I'd be really interested in getting my hands on a bigger one. I really do enjoy the smaller one. It's not too small to EDC or anything, but I do think I'd prefer the ergos on a larger one quite a bit. The other reason that I want to do this Kershaw video now is because we've got Kershaw holiday packs at Walmart now. So we're going to be breaking into this and looking through those knives as part of this video. I think that's a lot of fun. But first, let's talk about my thoughts on Kershaw. Kershaw was a brand that I've always been aware of, even before I was like big into the EDC world, even before I was, you know, a knife enthusiast. I knew about Kershaw knives because they're everywhere, right? They're at your Walmart, your hardware store, Tractor Supply, Ace, you know, whatever. Kershaw knives are around. And so I've owned a couple Kershaws through my life. My dad had a bunch of Kershaws, I remember. And I always had a very positive view on Kershaw because of that. I remember when I was just getting kind of into knives when I was a teenager, one of the things I would do is we'd go to the post office and someone at the post office would get like knife magazines in the mail, and obviously they didn't want them because they would just throw them right in the trash. And 13-year-old Gideon would pull those magazines out of the trash and take them home and read them. You know, I got some Blade magazines. Most of them were like Bud K catalogs, Smoky Mountain Knife Works catalogs. One of them was an A.G. Russell catalog. But I remember reading through those, and my favorite knives were some of the Kid Onion designed Kershaws. And I love Kid Onion designs. It's very ironic to me that none of the knives I just showed you are actually Kid Onion designs, because I think Kid Onion is one of my favorite designers out there. My goal in 2025 is to get a buckhorn and a smoke show on the channel from his brand Carbon Knives. I think those are two of the sexiest knives I've ever seen. And that buckhorn, in a lot of ways, kind of reminds me of this bare knuckle with this blade shape. And we'll talk about this blade shape here in a little bit, because it's something that's very Kershaw, right? The other thing I want to stress in this video is that this is only about Kershaw. I don't have any experience with ZT. I've handled a couple of ZTs, you know, played with them a little bit, but I've never like used or carried a ZT extensively. So I kind of feel like I have to treat these as separate brands, as separate entities, even though they're under the same umbrella, you know, Kai USA. I'm going to treat them separately because I don't have a lot of experience with ZT. So maybe one day we will. We'll see. Yeah, Kershaw knives were always around. And I think that's one of the best things about Kershaw is that they're accessible, right? I know that, you know, I've got a lot of friends who use pocket knives a lot. You know, people that work in construction and agriculture, things like this, where they use a pocket knife a lot. And not many of them care that much about their pocket knife, right? It's just something that they need to have on them. They don't really care about design aesthetics. They don't really care about fit and finish and all this and the other. They just want a knife in their pocket. And sometimes this leads to my friends carrying garbage knives, you know, crappy mossy oak and M-Tech knives that they got from the gas station or Track Supply or something, and the knives fall apart and they're terrible and they're awful. But Kershaw knives are also common among this group. And those knives hold up pretty dang well. And I think that's the biggest praise I can give Kershaw, is that they make good knives for non-knife people. And that's a very important part of the market that needs to be hit. And I know Kershaw, especially the last year or so, they've really been marketing towards the enthusiasts. I mean, this knife here, this was built with knife enthusiasts in mind, I think. Their launch series is kind of built with enthusiasts in mind. You know, they've been, the Bel Air, that's kind of new to them. I want to get a Bel Air so bad. That looks like a cool knife. That's a very knife enthusiast knife. But Kershaw also makes a ton of knives that are affordable and that get put into brick and mortar stores, and people buy those knives. I think that's a good thing, because a lot of people need knives, but not everyone's a knife person. And a non-knife person is going to be less picky about what they purchase. They're not going to do a whole lot of research into different blade steels, different types of construction, et cetera, et cetera. And so the chances of them buying a knife that is crappy and unsafe is pretty high. And with Kershaw, I kind of trust them to give consumers a well-built but affordable and appealing option, even to people that really don't know what they're doing. A lot of companies will just, if they're just making products to sell products to the layman, they'll put a lot into advertising and this, that, and the other. And they'll just, they'll tell you that, oh, this thing is great and you need it, and it's actually a piece of crap, and they're just counting on you as a consumer being too stupid to notice. But Kershaw, I feel like they're aware of the fact that a large portion of their consumer base are non-knife people. These guys are not knife experts, but they need a knife. They rely on knives. And so Kershaw says, hey, You know, we're going to make $20 knives and we're going to do it right. For an enthusiast, sometimes we turn our noses up because it's like, oh, they're assisted, they've got plastic scales, they're using 8CR blade steel. Puh, yuck, disgusting. But that's just because we're snobby enthusiasts, right? When it comes to an actual, I don't want to say inexperienced, but when it comes to a knife person who is a user only, they're not going to care about that. They want the assisted opening because they can use it with gloves on. It's going to deploy every single time. You know, they don't have to, they don't care about fidgeting. They just want that blade to come open. The steel, they want to sharpen it on a freaking rock out at their job site, right? So super steel might not be, you know, what they're after. And it's really, really important to give those kind of people knives. And so I really applaud Kershaw for doing that. And speaking of those kind of knives, let's take a look at this little holiday pack. So this is, you know, 25 bucks at Walmart right now. I reviewed the 2023 holiday pack from Kershaw. I'll link that video at the end of this one. It had some cool knives. What do I do with these kind of things, you guys might ask? I give them away. I give them away. I have given away so many Kershaw knives and Ozark Trail knives too, but I prefer to give away Kershaw knives because I do think they're built better than Ozark Trail. Like Kershaw, even Kershaw's really cheap knives are a step up from Ozark Trail. I mean, this here, you know, 25 bucks, 3 knives, that's, you know, $8 and change. A knife, $8.30 or so. A knife, that's not a lot of money to spend on a knife. And especially if you're going to buy all 3 together and you're going to use this one for a little bit, and then when it's used up and done, you discard it and move on to this one, discard, move on to that one. You know, it's good for a certain group of people. And I'm not saying that these are disposable knives either. I mean, you could use these for a long, long time, but if you do end up losing one or damaging one or something, it's not gonna hurt, right? So I think we're gonna have to open all these up separately. Let's go ahead and get this first one out right away. I like the color on this one. OD green scales and a black blade. That is a color combo that I really, really love. Pocket clip looks good. It's not recessed, but we've got flat screws. All of these are assisted. That lock bar, I gotta say, is over a little bit further than I would like. There's quite a bit of stick on that. Whew, that speed safe feels pretty strong, pretty stout on this guy. Centering is perfect. We've got thumb studs and a flipper. Plastic washers in there, it looks like. A little bit of a lazy flip right there. Could be the pivot's just a little bit too tight. Pretty good. Lockup. Probably just needs to break in a little bit. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Ooh. That liner is not great on this guy. What are the materials on this? 3CR13 blade. Not great. Assisted opening, liner lock, glass-filled nylon handle. The ergos on this are actually pretty good. And this is a very Kershaw-looking knife. Kershaw knives also have a very unique design aesthetic. Wow, that lock bar is not great. Hollow ground blade. Let's go ahead and test the sharpness. It's got an edge on it. Good deal, good deal. Yeah, biggest problem with this one is that lock bar. I do not like that a whole lot at all. But there we go. Let's go ahead and use this to get into the next one. Very acute tip. This is actually a great blade shape for getting into blister packs. Kind of a, I don't know. It's kind of like a mix between a drop point and a Warncliffe. Get this knife out. This is the big one of the bunch. Lockup looks a lot better on this one. Pocket clip, same kind of deal. Non-reversible. Drop point blade. Good looking knife, to be honest. Centering is perfect. Flipper only. Ooh, yeah, that felt good. And this one is actually really comfortable in hand. It does have slightly contoured GRN scales. All of the specs are going to be the same for these, by the way. It's all 3CR and GRN. Yeah, that actually feels pretty good. It's got an edge on it. Awesome. Yeah, this one's pretty nice. I do like this one. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this last one. By the way, the artwork on the packaging, I guess, it's a photo of Montaigne Lake. Looks like probably somewhere in like Glacier National Park, maybe the Tetons, Yellowstone maybe. But yeah, let's go ahead and get out of here. Notification. All right, let's go ahead and get into this last one. Yeah, this knife is actually pretty cool and something that, yeah, and it's got phosphor bronze washers instead of plastic. So, and look how slicey that is. That's a very acute hollow grind on that guy. All right. Get this last one out. This one looks almost identical to the first one, except it's all black, and he's a little bit smaller, and the handle is a little bit different. This one has a reversible clip, interestingly. Lockup looks a lot better. Yeah, more of a Warncliffe blade on this guy. Smaller knife. This is a just under 3-inch. Whoa! Centering on that one is pretty wonky. Assist is quite snappy. Yeah, back to Teflon on this guy. Could probably adjust him to be centered without too much issue. Is he off center or is the blade warped? No, off center. Yeah. But yeah, there we go. Kershaw Holiday Gift Pack. Do I recommend it? Gotta say, I think I liked last year's gift pack more. The knives in that pack were a little bit better. This is an okay knife. This one I'm not a big fan of, but again, this is going to be kind of, yeah, that lock is just moving further and further over. Yeah, this particular knife is no bueno. Of course, I don't think every single one and every single pack is going to be that way, but yeah, I mean, if you're looking for some stocking stuffers or something, these aren't the worst things out there. You could do a whole lot worse, that is for sure. And this one's actually quite nice, very comfortable in hand. It's a good little blade on there. I like this. Got the phosphor bronze washers instead of plastic. I can feel a clip in hand a little bit, but yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. And I think that pretty well illustrates my point that Kershaw makes good knives for the everyday guy, right? I mean, it's kind of cool that a random person on the street, like I've run into people who carry Kershaw Cryos who are not knife people. It's like, wow, you've got a Rick Hinder design in your pocket. That's pretty awesome. And of course, they don't care, but that's cool. One of the all-time great knife makers has a design that just anyone can go and get. I think that's a lot of cool. That's a lot of cool. That's a lot of fun. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, so we're gonna move past that point. Next thing we're gonna talk about is let's talk about the Speed Safe Assist. This knife is speed safe. This knife is speed safe. All three of those knives were speed safe. How do I feel about speed safe? Well, it's kind of the OG assisted opening, right? I believe it was designed by Ken Onion and a couple of other people. And a lot of assisted knives, like M-Tex and stuff, are trying to replicate the mechanics of the Speed Safe. They do not do it as well, though. Not all assists are made equal. The Speed Safe is a good assist. I know not a whole lot of enthusiasts are into assists. Assisted knives are not my go-to, but if I like the design of a knife, I won't necessarily let an assist stop me from carrying it, right? This knife is a great example. I really love this design, and we'll talk more about Kershaw's design language here in a minute. And it just so happens to be assisted, but, you know, I didn't let that stop me from really, really enjoying this knife. I think assists definitely have a place. I made a whole video about this about a year ago in response to a video by Neves Knives. And I think that assisted knives definitely have a place. People that are working with gloves and especially in cold environments, like you're already bundled up, you lose a lot of dexterity, but you add being cold and uncomfortable to the mix. You want a knife that if you hit that flipper tab, you know it's going to deploy all the way. I've been in situations, I've seen other guys in situations where you pull your knife out and you're wearing gloves and you're doing something with this hand, so you need to open it one-handed, and you fumble the opening because you're, impaired. And the knife looks like it opens all the way, but it's not open all the way, and you hurt yourself. And so having an assist where, even if you don't get the angle of attack just right, or you don't get the amount of pressure just right, hitting that flipper tab is going to reliably open that blade. That's awesome, right? You'll know that your knife is open and locked out. You can make your cuts and stuff. And then when you're done with your job, two-hand closing it, if you're wearing gloves, is probably the smart thing to do anyways. It's not like, closing any of these knives one-handed is an issue, but, I think assisted knives have a place. Another place that, and I've had conversation with this back and forth with people. Some people agree with me, some people don't. I think assisted knives are great for kids. If you're a teenager or a young kid with your first knife, I think assists are great. My dad taught me how to use knives with slip joints, and that's awesome. But kids are, of course, know your kids before you hand them a knife, right? Not every kid is ready for a knife at the same time, but young people can be clumsy and stupid. We've all been there. We were stupid. And sometimes slip joints take some finesse to use correctly, right? And so I like to give kids locking knives. And the thing I like about an assist for kids, especially I think open nails are great knives for kids because you open them two-handed and then you can, lock them into place. I think those are great knives for kids. But eventually, at least in my mind, you want your youngsters that you're teaching how you use knives, you want them to graduate into modern folders. And so an assist, I think, is awesome because, again, sometimes kids don't have the strength in their finger or whatever to, work a detent properly. And so, having that knife assist them in the opening, I think is really, really awesome because it'll make sure the knife opens up all the way every time and locks up securely. And then that assisted opening nature kind of makes them do it two-handed for the close, right? So one hand opening is going to open all the way, get their task done, and then they're going to be safe, teach them, close it two-handed to overcome that spring. I think assisted opening knives are great. I think they make for great first modern folders for young people. People that have maybe weaker hands, either because of a disability or just that's the way their hands are, an assist can be very, very good. I don't think assisted knives are ever going to go out of style. I don't think they're ever going to become completely obsolete. They've kind of gone out of style already in the enthusiast world. But as far as the average consumer goes, I think assists are still sought after. They're very much desired. And I think they definitely have a place. So I don't mind assists that much. And Kershaw's Speed Safe is one of the better assists you can get. Let's go ahead and talk about Kershaw's aesthetic now because they've got a very unique design aesthetic. And this is their USA made gear and their China made stuff. That they've got a very cool design language. This payout is a great example of that. Kind of wacky clip. Kershaw likes doing copper accents, and they like putting inserts in random places. Like this is the, I mean, this one's not super random because it's the over travel stop for the lock bar. But I mean, look at this. They've got like all kinds of weird milling going on. A lot of their knives look kind of futuristic and high tech. They do tend to use a lot of copper accents. I've noticed they enjoy copper, which I do too, so I'm not complaining. It's definitely very recognizable. It might not be your thing, but Kershaw leans into it, and I appreciate that. Even on some of their stuff that's a little more plain looking, you know, they have some of their classic design elements. On this iridium, I mean, yeah, we've got like the copper accents and stuff, but the way this blade is shaped, and the way we have the swedge cut out along the top, that's very Kershaw. That's a very Kershaw thing to do. They love these angular lines that kind of play with your eyes, play with the light, and just kind of spice up the design. I mean, otherwise, this is a very standard drop point / spear point crossbar lock knife. But honestly, that big swedge there on top gives it its own personality. It makes it look different and unique, and it does have some functional purpose as well. But yeah, Kershaw knives tend to be like colorful and angular and futuristic. And one of my favorite things about Kershaw is this blade that I've started to refer to as the Kershaw Sheephawk. This is a blade shape that they use on several of their knives, and I can't believe this is the only one that I really have an example of. I mean, this is kind of the same thing. This one kind of, sort of, but you see it in a couple different forms. But basically, what you have is kind of a sheep's foot blade where the edge cants up at a little bit of a drastic angle, and then the tip almost curves down. So what you get is a knife that's really great at utility cuts, kind of acts like a sheep's foot or a Warncliffe, but the edge profile behaves more like a drop point, if that makes sense. It's a very unique blade shape, and I love it. It's super useful. You see iterations of this, like the Kershaw Bel Air. I think it's technically kind of an iteration of this. A knife that I was trying to get, the Kershaw Endgame. I ordered one of those a long time ago. It got stolen from me. Porch Pirates, unfortunately. But it had kind of like, it's kind of like if the bare knuckle and the payout had a child. It had kind of this style of blade with these colors and wackiness. Just a neat knife. But yeah, Kershaw definitely has a very recognizable aesthetic. And this blade shape, and you see this blade shape on a lot of ZTs too. The Natrix. Oh, I actually have a mini Natrix somewhere. Let me go grab that. Yeah, I remembered that I do have a Kershaw Natrix, a mini Natrix in copper in my desk drawer. I love the Natrix knives, by the way. And yeah, here you can see that same blade shape. And it's just a very useful blade shape. It's really, really cool. So I like that. Kershaw also kind of does this weird magic trick where the ergos on their knives look kind of bizarre. Like, they've got some weird looking knife handles, but somehow they turn out to be pretty ergonomic. It's some kind of dark magic. I don't know how they do it, but they do. And it's pretty cool. So yeah, I dig the design. I dig Kershaw's design language. Sometimes it works better for me than other times. There are a few Kershaw knives I've seen and I've gone like, wow, that is a lot. But I respect that they do that. And to be honest, I do enjoy most of their designs. So yeah, there you go. I know they're kind of hit or miss, kind of polarizing, but I think they're kind of cool. Here's another knife I found, by the way. This was donated to the channel by old Tonto Guy. This is an old Kershaw. This is a Dimension, but you can see here kind of weird handle shape. They couldn't just give you a normal blade. They had to give you weird handle shape with all the milling and this titanium. Very futuristic, very cool. This knife is going to be in a giveaway at some point. Maybe 4,000 subscribers. If you're not subscribed, hit the button. We're going to be doing a giveaway. And kind of the last thing I want to talk about with Kershaw is innovation and what they've contributed to the knife world. It's because of Kershaw that we have 14C28 in. That right there is awesome, right? 14C28N is one of the most beloved, I'm going to say most beloved budget knife steels of all time, but probably just one of the most beloved steels of all time. It was designed specifically for pocket knives. Kershaw, had it designed for them, and it's great stuff. So we owe that all to Kershaw. That's awesome. Kershaw does a lot of other innovating too, like their sub frame lock here. I think is a really cool idea. It allows you to, kind of mix materials on a knife. This Natrix is a great example of that. We've got copper on both sides, but we have a steel lock bar because of that sub frame lock. Because a copper frame lock, I don't think would work out that well. But very, very cool design feature right there. Ball bearings. Kershaw's KVT ball bearing pivot. I mean, we already talked about how they innovated with the speed safe assisted opening, but they also really kind of propelled pocket knives on bearings forward. I mean, ZT for a long time were regarded as like the best action knives ever. And I gotta say, KVT ball bearings have a very unique feel. They're very snappy. Kershaw tends to dial their detents pretty hard, and they give you a very unique feeling. It's really neat. So yeah, they definitely innovate a whole lot. And they're not afraid to take chances. They're not afraid to do things that are kind of weird. Like this highball. This is kind of a weird design, right? It's a knife that's fuller only deployment. That's weird. But they're fine with doing weird. And I think that's awesome. I think that's something that should be celebrated and supported. And I'm all about it. I'm all about it. And the last thing I want to talk about with Kershaw is that Kershaw's they work with some of the greatest knife makers ever. Ken Onion, we already mentioned. And Kershaw does a lot of production both domestically in the U.S. I mean, this is a U.S.-made Kershaw, for example, and it's pretty affordable. Kershaw makes some affordable USA-made knives, which is awesome. And they do stuff overseas. And because they do that, they're able to hit a lot of markets. And I feel like Kershaw has one of the more diverse lineups of any knife company out there right now. I mean, look through a Kershaw catalog and you'll see a vast array of different knives for every flavor. And I think that's really cool. Kershaw, in a lot of ways, to me, feels like if Gerber was good. I'm sorry, Gerber, that might be harsh, but you guys know I don't really like Gerber that much. And Kershaw, to me, Kershaw is what Gerber could be, is what Gerber should be. I mean, yeah, Kershaw makes their lower end cheap knives. Fine. They're still decent knives. They're not great, but they're decent knives. But then when they try to make a quality product, they do it. They can make some great stuff. Gerber cannot. And I don't want to turn this into bashing on Gerber, but I will. It seems to me that Gerber has a very well-respected legacy. You know, they were a USA-made knife company that, was well-regarded within the armed forces, within the civilian market. And then it feels like they kind of fell apart and became, the term that I hear thrown around a lot, I'm not saying this is a term that I approve of, is just Chinese junk, right? And that's sad to see. And there are some Gerber knives that I like. The Strong Arm, even though it's way overpriced, is a good tactical fixed blade. I do enjoy the Strong Arm quite a bit. And Gerber has been trying to do, some USA-made knives and things recently. But I feel like for the most part, they're kind of letting their legacy get spit on. They're not living up to their name. Kershaw, on the other hand, I feel like Kershaw knows who they are. They know where they came from and what they represent. And yeah, in some ways, they've gone Gerber, Yeah, they make a lot of knives like this. Go to a Cabela's. Next time you're at a Cabela's, go to Cabela's. Go look at the knife section. There are going to be a buttload of 8CR Kershaws out there. But the difference is if I'm in a life or death situation and someone throws me a $20 Gerber, I might as well use it to kill myself, and I'm not even sure to be up to that task. If I'm in a life or death situation and someone throws me a $20 Kershaw, I feel like I've got a fighting chance. You know, it feels like they just care a little bit more about their products, about their consumers. Kershaw, it feels like they've really got their ears open and their eyes open, and they've got a finger on the general knife consumer market as well as the EDC knife enthusiast market. And I feel like they kind of deliver to both of those groups very, very well. And especially in the past year or so, Kershaw's been really taking people by surprise. The Iridium has been a huge hit. You know, I've got the mini one here, and I do enjoy this knife quite a bit. This is an awesome little knife. Their launch series has always been very highly regarded, but they've been doing some really unique and crazy stuff with it recently that people are loving. The Kershaw Bel Air, you know, it's an affordable alternative to the Benchmade Bug Out using superior materials. I mean, they're listening to people, and they're trying to represent themselves with dignity, and they're trying to be who people want them to be. And I think that's awesome. That's really, really awesome. Obviously, I love my USA made knives and stuff. And so for US companies, I'm automatically willing to, you know, give them, you know, a shot. I want them to succeed. I want them to try and try again. And with Gerber, I'm rooting for Gerber. I want Gerber to do great, but they keep letting me down. With Kershaw, I feel like I can root for them and they'll give me something in return. And that just feels good. So, do I like Kershaw? Yeah, I do. I really like Kershaw. And hopefully, I want to get a Bel Air eventually on the channel. I think that'd be a really cool knife. It's kind of right up my alley. I also need to test Magna Cut, so that'd be a good excuse. But I think I'm going to go ahead and end this video right here, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Kershaw 2023 holiday pack. My particular one, this knife for an $8 knife, great. This one for an $8 knife, pretty good, great. I'd say this one's maybe exceptional for an $8. Nah, great for an $8 knife. Really good for an $8 knife. This one, meh. That lock bar is not my favorite thing out there. But do I recommend getting it? I mean, yeah, you want to get some stocking stuffers, you want to get some gifts for some folks, and you know, not spend a whole lot of money. It's okay. Last year's pack was a lot better. Kershaw as a brand, though, it's got the Gideon stuff, seal of approval. I like them, and I'm excited to see where they go. Alrighty, big shout out to my channel members right here. Really appreciate everything they do. They allow it. They allow it possible. Oh goodness, you would never know that English is actually my first language. They make it possible for me to, you know, buy these goofy little Walmart gift packs and share them with you guys. I really appreciate what my members do. If you want to become a member, there's a button down below where you can join. For everyone else, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave it a like, comment below, and subscribe. I've been Gideon, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.